So what we will do, so we have about half an hour to start a panel discussion here. We'll take, of course, the question from the audience. I plan to organize this discussion around three areas. I mean, the first one will be to discuss and to elaborate on the different presentations given today on the way and how we can develop the use, integration and impact of BGC Argo in models. That will be the first part of the discussion. I'd like then to have a second part, which would be more on the specific requirement from the modeling community with respect to BGC Argo sampling. And this was already partly addressed in some presentation. I think it would be quite useful that we have a common discussion on this topic. And the last is to really get the view of the different panelists on the different applications of that will benefit the most from BGC Argo, of course, when BGC Argo are integrated in model, because this is the topic here on this session. Though maybe to start with the first point, I mean, so how to develop the use of BGC Argo in models. I'd like maybe to start a question here to John Piero on so we had several examples here during the session on the data assimilation techniques and so on. There are many challenges ahead of us, of course. This is already a lot of progress was already made. But maybe to have your view, John Piero, on the main challenges that we have for the coming years to improve the data assimilation methods. And other panelists are free to intervene if needed.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Well, we start with some ideas. Biogeochemical data assimilation started in the past using satellite data. So looking at the surface and trying to propagate information along the water column and on the biogeochemical state variables. Using biogeochemical Argo is some very revolution for biogeochemical data assimilation, since we, for the first time, are able to look at the interior of the sea and in a multivariate way, because I mean, sensors are Argo has different sensors, and so different variables can be assimilated and at the same time in model evolution. So data assimilation method has to deal with the fully multivariate data assimilation, including covariances or other methods that can propagate and integrate different variables in the model system. Increasing model resolution, increasing the model complexity, and increasing the resolution of observation also requires to move from Gaussian or quasi-linear approximation to non-Gaussian and non-linear data assimilation method. And it is, I mean, for biogeochemistry, is still a very challenging way. I mean, looking at the ensemble data assimilation method, I'm thinking. And for sure, as I mentioned in my presentation, also consistency among different type of data stream is something that has to be taken into account. So integrating satellite and in situ observation in a unique data assimilation system in order to get the best of the different observing systems. Just some ideas.
Thanks. In the data assimilation and challenges on this was addressed partly by Stefano, but also by John in his presentation. I mean, the use of ensemble approach, both for data assimilation, but also for forecasting, is something which looks quite promising. So do you see this, for example, you, Stefano, as a way forward that really moving towards ensemble approach? Of course, this is not the only solution, but to better address the complexity of the assimilation of BGC observation?
Yes, I do agree that ensemble approaches are really something that would be very useful to address the current issues and to make the most of the biogeochemical Argo data. For who is not really a techie data assimilation person, when we talk about ensemble data assimilation methods, we in practice are running several runs of a model with perturbed values of the initial conditions, of the parameters, and so on, so that from the statistical distribution of the ensemble, we can get some information about the errors of the model or cross covariances among the variables of the model. And in particular, this part of the getting dynamical cross covariances between the model variables can be very useful to do multivariate data assimilation. That means you assimilate data and you correct more than one variable of the model, not just the one that you assimilated, but also other ones that are correlated, and you estimate such correlation by means of the ensemble. So yeah, with the ensemble methods, you can do a lot of these biogeochemical Argo. Yeah, there is the constraint of the computational cost of running ensemble methods, but some techniques or developing particularly clever ensembles by means of stochastic parameterization, stochastic perturbation of parameters and so on, can help to get a smaller ensemble, or methodologies like localization can help to reduce the dimension of the ensemble. And in comparison with variational methods that, as you know, are more computationally efficient, but you need to predefine the error of the model. There are alternatives like hybrid ensemble variational methods where you make the most of the two approaches. Yeah, so in essence, yeah, ensemble methods are definitely something to look at for making use of biogeochemical Argo data.
Okay, I just one question that just came out, and I just read it here. To what extent are the forecasts able to represent the evolution of biogeochemical feature versus serving as a nowcast of the recent state? So really here on a forecast scale for biogeochemistry. So maybe I don't know, Stefano, or if Shuei, Fei, John, or Giampiero, you want to address this question? Which is, I mean, more on the forecasting skill, I would say. And this is Stefano. Is it?
I think Giampiero has first-hand experience.
Giampiero, okay, go.
Oh, okay. Well, that's some experience on the Mediterranean Copernicus marine system that we had. Actually, we are able to assimilate during the last 7 days all the floats available, producing a state estimation for the last 7 days. And at that point, the system produced 10 days of forecast in the future. And the next week, we are able to compute the performance of the forecast using the new available Argo data. At the present, we estimate the forecast skill for the first 3 days and of forecast. And I would say that the first day of forecast, just 1 day after the analysis, produced the best forecasting, the better forecasting comparison to the second and third day. We don't have a long time statistics, so yeah, my personal opinion is that for sure in a nowcast, the Argo data can really help in the nowcast estimation of the system, and having a better initial condition for the forecast for short-term forecast is for sure an important asset for the marine Copernicus Mediterranean system.
It's true that on this topic, I mean, taking the experience of the Copernicus Marine Service on the use on who are using the different model outputs. I mean, a large part is actually using a model in for nowcasting or for past and reanalysis and so on, but still they are using user taking the forecast as well. So that's, of course, then it depends how good they are. And today we don't have yet a global BGC algo, by the way, to feed correctly those forecasts. Maybe I'd like to move on a question to Sylvie here on because we see, and there was presentation by both by Gian Piero, by Shui, by almost all speakers on how dependent we are on a good data system upfront. And this was also addressed by Elodie on so the question, I mean, what do you see for the main challenges for the BGC Argo data processing system to ensure that data can be readily ingested in models? And how do you see the cooperation that should be established between modeling teams on data processing teams?
So what I can say is what I try to put in my slide is that the BGC Argo data system, I would say that it's still under development. So we are progressing a lot, and we have progressed a lot on the real-time data processing. But as a lot of data need to be adjusted in real time, we need to have this this procedure in place in order to be able to do this adjustment in real time. And to be able to perform and to do this adjustment, we also need to have enough data in all the different areas of the ocean in order to have robust procedures that would work everywhere. So this is something that on which we are working on, and there is a lot of monitoring of the data in order to improve the data system. The other point is that on the delay mode, we have scientists are able to perform and to provide delay mode BGC data, but what we would like to do is to have homogeneous or agreed qualities the same way that we did for TNS, which means arrive to the same level of quality of the data, whatever PI have been processing the data, because at the end of the day, this is what you want at the modelers, is to have good quality of the data processed in a way that is properly documented. And this, we are still on the process to work it, even if we are progressing, and we hope to have by the end of this year already procedure on which we could be agreeing and deploying in the different countries. Then we need to have the feedback from you as a community on what are the difficulties you have with the data, what are the things that are working well, what are the things that you really think that we should have kept them, we should have flagged them as bad, and you are still struggling with the same issue. So having feedback and more closer discussion and connection with the operational community that you are representing is important to make the system progressing in the future. So really we have to communicate more between the different teams so that we improve the way we provide you the data. We can't say that we will arrive to a data set that will have no bad data in it when they reach to you, but we can work together to improve the system.
Thanks, Sylvie. Maybe I will ask Faye to comment a little on this, because we see that there are strong opportunities to accelerate the integration of BGC Argo data in models. I mean, on this co-development between the BGC Argo observing community and the modeling community is quite important. So what would you propose, I mean, as a mechanism, I mean, maybe to make sure that this interaction develops? I mean, is it through regional projects, through specific project and so on, or maybe in the framework of the UN decade is also something that could be.
Yes, thank you. I think some of my panel members already presented from the global to a regional, the different modeling capability in data simulation, how to take advantage of BGC Argo. I think the modeling community should, at this point, emphasize on two approaches. One is still the global approach that take advantage of 1,000 BGC Argo array, but we also need to pay attention to regional high resolution physical biogeochemical models, because as you know, there's a lot of uncertainties. One biogeochemistry models can work for all the regions. Even they can on a coarse resolution, but with a high resolution, the ID resolving capability, we can review a lot of the features that global model cannot do. I think the second is really the modeling community take advantage of this one Argo, the new array, 4,600 array in the next 5 years, but they doubled the current numbers of the Argos floats, such as the equatorial Pacific, the western boundary currents, and etc. I think we should take advantage of that. This is really the part to really tailored for a high resolution regional physical model, the coupling. I think by doing that, we have two ways to approach this. So I pause here.
I think this point, is very valid. I mean, these two aspects, two scale, I mean, the regional on the global. And maybe on the global, I'd like to ask Shuei on John, on possibly also Stefano, on in this view to develop a specific international project to accelerate the use of BGC Argo in models. So I remember what was done for GO-DAE on Ocean Predicts some times ago. I mean, do you see a value of to have a specific international initiative for a global BGC Argo data assimilation experiment where we could work together, intercompare results and so on? So I'd like to get your perspective to both of you who are working on a global system. So Shuei, if you want to comment, yes, you're it.
Yeah, I think the collaboration with model and observation is vital for global, because the global QC is needed shipboard observations or other satellite data, because the regional model is regional, only species of level of the BGC model is common, but the global, the species of phytoplankton or something like that is different. So it is very difficult to collaborate with in global scale, but we can use any kind of the global framework of Argo, satellite, and GO-SIP. So we can accelerate the combination of these, not only a model and observation, but also a model and observation and data accumulation and other observing shipboard. Thank you.
John, what would be your perspective on this?
So as I tried to say in the talk, this question of model structural uncertainty is huge, and biogeochemical Argo is going to give us the opportunity to explore and falsify models in a way that we've never had before. So I think that a seasonal to decadal, or even a short-term forecast to decadal scale intercomparison of models to explore this uncertainty, and whether the results that I showed about the dependence and independence of skill on the biogeochemical data is model dependent or not, and the role of biogeochemical Argo to show that the degree to which the parameterizations that we use in these models are too rigid or are non-stationary, and maybe some models do better at some times and others at other times, and so I think there's a new frontier here.
Yes, John, thanks for this comment. I mean, I think there are a lot of opportunities to work together on those issues at an international level. I maybe take this opportunity to ask a question to Elodie, because there are many issues on the way to use BGC Argo data to validate models, I mean, the use of metrics. So you made a presentation on this, Elodie, Jean-Pierre as well. On the, so do you see a value of stronger cooperation between different groups to develop common metrics on the way we can assess models at different scales and different resolution, from analysis, reanalysis, and also forecast? And how could we move forward on this? Oh, you're muted, Elodie.
Yes, of course, I think it's really important to work together between modeler communities, but also with Argo community, as Sylvie mentioned before. We already initiated some discussions, but they have to be strengthened in order to share best practices in the use of BGC Argo. There are a lot of improvements to do. For example, for the analysis I presented, we just selected the best quality of the data. So we have to remove a lot of profile. So it's a shame to remove all these profiles. So we have initiated discussion on that inside CMEMS, but I think outside CMEMS at international level, discussions are needed. And yeah, of course, this kind of metrics I presented could be shared between us in order to intercomparate several models, because each one is using different parameterizations. And as John said, one can function better for a process and another one can be better for another process. So the Argo data could be really important to compare the model and better understand the processes inside this model. I don't know if somebody want to add something.
No, thanks, Elodie. I think it's good to see that there are many opportunities to collaborate on those issues. Maybe we'll ask also, I saw that Jean-Pierre want to speak, but Stefano first on this international framework for cooperation, because Stefano is co-chairing the Ocean Predict task team on a marine ecosystem. So it would be good to have your views on the way we can move forward on progressing together on those topics.
Indeed, in the Marine Ecosystem Analysis and Prediction Task Team of Ocean Predict, there is a very lively discussion on international collaboration on ecosystem modeling and biogeochemical Argo for predictions. For who doesn't know, Ocean Predict is an international organization which is promoting the development and exploitation by stakeholders of operational oceanography. And in particular, the MAP task team, it's focusing on ecosystem applications of ocean predictions. And so the promotion of new observing systems, including biogeochemical Argo, is one of the priorities of this forum. But then also new initiatives, new programs in the UN Decade for Ocean Science. We will host programs for promoting a predictable ocean. And in fact, Ocean Predict has put ideas out for a program called Forest Sea, which will promote the value chain for ocean prediction from observation to exploitation stakeholders. And then let's hope that also this G7 SOE will be a good forum for promoting such kind of collaboration and for a stronger biogeochemical observational system internationally.
Okay, thank you. I think we will, Jean-Pierre, you wanted to say something? We need to move to the next. Okay. Yeah,
I would like just to stress, I mean, as Elodie said, I mean, since we are moving toward a process, model process validation, since because of Argo can allow us to look at in deep in the ocean and look at the processes occurring then. I mean, the formation of the chlorophyll maximum, the variation of the depth of the nitric line with vertical movement. We are looking at processes, physical and biochemical processes occurring in the ocean. We need a really tight collaboration between modeler and Argo community, and sharing knowledge and of the temporal and spatial scale of biochemical process in the ocean interior, in order to get, I mean, the best practice in using this new type of service system.
Okay, there is one question from the participant, I think, which is a very important one. How will BGC Argo help modeling forecasting the shallow coastal waters? And that's, I think, an important issue. And I don't know, I think I'd like to maybe hear Stefano and others, I mean, on these particular topics, because this is quite relevant when dealing with applications.
But first, I will steal the answer of Charles Stokes in the 1 week or 2 weeks ago, when he said that in shelf seas, for example, one important driver of the biochemistry over there, it's what's happening at the boundaries. And the boundaries are the open ocean, which can be constrained by the biochemical Argo. But I would add also, because of the particular work that I'm doing, that the full integration of the observation from biochemical Argo in the open ocean and gliders in the shelf seas could be an excellent collaboration, and hopefully driven both by model predictions that assimilate those data, as I showed in my presentation, would be an excellent way to coordinate the different strategies of observations in shallow seas and in the open ocean, and integrated modeling in the two areas. That's my point of view.
Okay. Thank you.
If I may, on this point, we are also planning to collaborate with the glider community on the quality control procedure, so that we both benefit of the improvements that are done both by glider community and by Argo, so that we provide homogeneous data to you.
And we could possibly also derive, I'm going back to the point by Elodie, on specific metrics on how well we can monitor, I mean, boundary condition from open sea models that are constrained with BGC Argo to constrain a coastal system. I think time is running a lot, actually. I'd like to move to more rapidly to a second part of the discussion, which are on specific requirements from the modeling community with respect to BGC Argo. So as all you knows, I mean, BGC Argo follows the sampling guidelines from core Argo. It is a 3 degree per 3 degree array, 10 days sampling plus some extra sampling in a few regions. We have had several presentations explaining that for some cases we want to have higher sampling. I mean, Faye gave a nice example that we should also possibly adjust the sampling depending on a signal we want to sample. I want maybe to hear the view here of Shuei on the fact that, do you see, I mean, from the modeling perspective, or maybe John as well, needs to specifically focus on region where we think that the model are not really need to be much more constrained, validated, or improved by observation. Or, of course, this is more longer run, because we know that we will stick to the core Argo sampling. It's not a question of modifying it, but it's good to have this discussion. So do you see, I mean, some specific region of interest for extra observation?
Well, I think I'd go to Faye's talk was a great example of, you know, the ability to get process understanding through the higher resolution sampling. But I certainly wouldn't want to sacrifice the ability to have the long-term data sets to answer these, you know, climate change scale questions. You know, that's the drawback of doing the high resolution sampling.
Yeah. Faye, you wanted to add something?
Yes, I think there is an ad hoc working group from the Argo community to address this issue, the different sampling frequency, and etc. I think what from the modeling point of view, what we need beside the state variables, we would like to have the rates estimates, the different biological rate estimates. I think that there are some low-hanging fruits that take advantage of most BGC Argo equipped with oxygen sensors. And then if we have a dense enough the oxygen measurements in one particular area, at a different time of the day, they surface, and you don't need to alter 5 days or 10 days. There's a different time of the day they surface, and then to see in this region how the oxygen changes at the surface at both at the depths. And then if we have the nitrate array, that we can estimate the drawdown of the nitrate through the different flow for the regional focus if we have dense enough. I think the rate estimate is also what we need from the modeling point of view.
Mm-hmm. That's very true, that it's a way, as you say, low-hanging fruits to take advantage of, fruits with less sensor on and I assume as well that we could work together on observing system simulation experiment to really understand better on the way to use them and to provide recommendation. I think time is running a lot, so I'd like to not to close, but before concluding this interesting discussion, I think we could speak for hours on those topics, to maybe have a view of all of you as a panelist on the last point that I wanted to address, which are the applications served by BGC models. So there can be reanalysis, analysis, short-term forecast, long-term forecast, and really on the role of BGC Argo. And from your perspective, what are the main applications that will benefit the most from BGC Argo? So it's can start maybe by you, Chue, what you on this topic.
Yes,
very short answer. We don't need a.
Yeah. I think the most advantage of BGC Argo is global, and I hope, in my opinion, the global estimation of the net primary production and so on is very powerful to investigate, I think.
Okay, Stefano.
Yeah, my point of view is that, as we have been using the Argo physical data to deliver global ocean reanalysis for the physical ocean, but we can do the same and obtain products that are as useful as the physical ocean reanalysis for the biogeochemistry. And this for a range of applications that goes from the analysis of the global carbon fluxes, these in retrospective reanalysis, for the understanding of how the functioning, what's the functioning of the ocean biogeochemistry and ecosystems, and then application for fisheries, habitat analysis. There's plenty. And the same that we have seen in the past weeks by directly exploiting biogeochemical data, but well, the reanalysis are, in a certain sense, more powerful, more extended in space and time observation that we can exploit for a range of purposes.
John, what will be your favorite applications?
Well, I think that the ability to constrain actual ocean biogeochemical variability is the first step. We use these smooth climatologies, and the ocean is pretty smooth when you look at through that lens, and with having the actual data to characterize how much variability is to me, order one, and then once we get that, then we'll have the ability to look at ocean biogeochemical change, and the fundamental contribution of Argo on ocean heat content variability, we will be able to extend to other, to oxygen and acidification and these other aspects of the system, which I think has a multitude of living marine resource applications.
Okay, Elodie?
Yeah, something that has not been already mentioned. Maybe one application is for the computing of global budget. For example, at Mercator, we are requested to deliver really accurate fluxes of CO2. And for this application, BioArgo data are really important to give accurate fluxes in order to compute a really good global carbon budget. This is an example.
Yes, okay, thank you, Faye, and Gianpiero, and I will then ask a final question to Sylvie.
Yes, I think we talk about this different user communities as we discussed. There's really from the global various climate aspect, the carbon cycle, to the regional to coastal. A lot of the actually users are coastal based, and whether it's this ecosystem health, that ocean acidification, hypoxia, eutrophication, and harmful algal blooms. I think we need to emphasize on the global to regional to coastal, the modeling continuums, the connection. I think that we need to emphasize that. And it's really finding the user groups and what the users needs, and then tailored and modified our model, the output and products. I think this is the challenge, and from global to regional to coastal levels.
Yes, totally right. Gianpiero, you want to add something on this application based on the experience you have in the Med-Sea, where you are running systems that already assimilates BGC Argo?
Yeah, very shortly. I think BGC Argo are really an important asset to evaluate current state of the marine ecosystem, serving for as initial condition for seasonal forecast, or that can be helpful for ecosystem survey estimates or supporting fisheries and aquaculture activities.
Okay, thanks for this overview for the application. I would like to ask last question to Sylvie on a slightly different topic, but which is actually the focus on this series of workshops on Argo. So we have seen here some example of the value of BGC Argo for modeling and also for all the applications. So that's something in Europe where this is very clear in our minds. So we need to develop BGC Argo and so on. And we are working between the Copernicus Marine Service and the EuroArgo ERIC that is managed by Sylvie on this topic. So what would you expect, Sylvie, from this workshop, just to ensure that maybe we can move forward with the EuroArgo ERIC to develop a European component to on an investment which is on BGC Argo? You are muted, Sylvie.
Okay, so what I would expect is that we manage to convince the wider community that BGC Argo is very important and that we need to engage with more countries, and that it will be as game changer for BGC knowledge and applications that it has been for temperature and salinity. And also what I would expect is that we manage to engage with the European Commission in order to complement what is done at national level with, in order to reach this maintaining at European scale 1/4 of the BGC Argo. So it's joint national and European Commission so that we reach this goal.
Okay, that's certainly an activity that needs to be followed after this workshop as part of the G7 FSOI. This is one of the key objectives following this workshop. I think we are already late, so I think it's time to close this panel discussion. So first, I'd like to thank all speakers and panelists today. I mean, first for the very nice presentation, also the detailed presentation that are available on the workshop website. This is a lot of work, but I think very useful for moving forward on the use of BGC Argo in models. Thanks as well to all participants for this, for their participation today, and of course to all the organizers of this workshop. I mean, the hard work making sure that everything runs smoothly and so on. I think the next step, so for us as panelists, will be very soon in a couple of hours when we move to the next session. But for all of you as a participant, it will be more for the final meeting, final summary session, high-level session that we will have in June 1st. So I hope you will all join us, because this will be the conclusion of this series of very important workshops. And we expect to, of course, to continue working together on this. Okay, so thank you very much. I don't know if Andrea, you want to add something, or we just close the meeting?
No, that's great. Thanks everybody for participating, and we'll see you at our next session in a few hours.
Okay, okay, so thank you very much. Bye-bye.